Welcome back to the wonderful world of bow making. In this video, we'll be covering all the basics of heat treating, the benefits and drawbacks, some different ways of doing it, and which woods should or shouldn't be heat treated. Today's music is by my awesome cousin in Uruguay, Marcos Topolansky Quintero. You can hear more of his work on Spotify or download his albums on iTunes. Whether you want to call it heat treating, tempering, or fire hardening, it's all just cooking the wood. Just like cooking, your main variables are time and temperature. And just like cooking, you have to race the clock of preserving moisture and not burning your food or bow. In the case of the bow, we have the extra challenge of only heat treating the belly and not the back. Heat treating is basically a deal with the bow gods. You make the belly of the bow stronger, denser, and pretty much just better. But heat-treated wood becomes weaker in tension. That's a huge price to pay in a bow. You're playing with fire, and if you take it too far, your bow will become brittle and snap. Learn to control it, and you'll unlock new doors of performance by gaining the ability to fine-tune the characteristics of your bow wood. If you're new to all of this, and all you want to do is make arrows fly, don't worry about heat treating. When you're just getting started, tension safety should be the #1 priority, and not performance. Once you have the basics down, then you can take more risks, and heat treating makes more sense, especially if you work mostly with whitewoods. Whitewoods, such as hickory, hazel, ash, elm, and maple, are excellent candidates for heat treating because they excel in tension, but can't exactly match that performance on the belly side. For that reason, whitewoods have a very poor reputation for being very prone to set and resulting string follow. Heat treating cures this fatal flaw by making these whitewoods top-shelf bowwoods, capable of performing alongside yew or osage. Let's start with the heat gun. You can also heat treat with fire, coals, space heaters, radiators, heating strips, or just about any other heat source that gets hot enough to burn. Heat treat the wood until it starts to brown, and then hold it there for a bit without burning the wood or drying it so much that it cracks. If you're getting the wood hot enough, it should smell toasty and nutty, and not at all smoky. If you look closely, you should be able to see the wood shrink, and it should be slightly harder than before. Try to minimize heat spilling over to the back of the bow, and stop heat treating if the back gets too hot to touch continuously, or if the sides or back start to scorch. There are two main techniques with the heat gun. You can keep the heat gun moving while you heat treat, which leads to smooth and uniform heat treats, but this can be very hard on the shoulders, especially if you plan to heat treat for several hours. The other method is to keep the heat gun set, and to move the bow in 3 to 5 minute intervals. Try to adjust the heat treating distance so that you get the right amount of browning in that 3 to 5 minutes. Heat treating can also be combined with added reflex through the use of reflex forms or cauls. This has the major benefit of straightening the stave at the same time as the heat treat, saving a lot of work. Using reflex to improve performance should be done sparingly, and only if you have margin for error to spare. For maximum performance from extremely tension-strong woods like hickory, combine heat treating with moisture management, such as a warm drying box. The drier the wood you start with, the easier it will be to heat treat without cracking due to escaping moisture. So how many times should you heat treat? This depends on the bow. Sometimes I'll heat treat only once after tillering. Other times I heat treat both before and after tillering to keep set down. Anywhere from 1 to 3 heat treats per limb can be typical. Fewer if you do a big heat treat, and more if you like light and shallow heat treats. When you're tillering and begin to encounter hints of emerging set, heat treating can be a good alternative to dropping the draw weight, while still preventing further set. After heat treating, I like to wait about a week for the wood to rehydrate. Sometimes I'll get back to work in a few days, or even the next day. I know many bowyers who go back to tillering once the wood is cool to the touch, but personally I'd rather let the wood rehydrate longer. Alright, that is all for today. Special thank you to Mark St. Louis for his chapters in the Bowyer's Bibles, and for being so open with his methods. And thanks as always to my cousin for his beautiful music. Please support his work by listening on Spotify or downloading his album on iTunes. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, may the bow gods be with you, and may your arrows fly true.